With no players coming into the club during the transfer window and the likes of Danny Rose and Christian Eriksen linked away from the club, Spurs have announced that the first 3 games will be played away from White Hart Lane and in the National Stadium, Wembley. I'm joined by Bull Street's very own and Tottenham supporter,
really
Adam Boultwood.
Me, yeah.
I know, it was quite bleak. But I was just trying to capture the mood of Spurs fans.
It's fine.
Is it?
Jeez, it's fine.
Is it?
Because we'll get into it.
We will. I mean, obviously the title of the video is "Are Spurs Heading for a Crisis?" It feels like
dramatic.
Yeah, it is dramatic, but it's often kind of when people talk about this is a run of bad results when you weren't expecting it. But this is an altogether different conundrum for a club like Spurs.
Yeah.
With no White Hart Lane, no new stadium, no transfers coming in.
Yeah.
How do you feel currently?
Look, I always try to look on the bright side, Flav. I'm feeling optimistic. I think I agree that there's been sort of a series of sort of issues and circumstances, as you explained there, that mean that the mood, I think, is not as jubilant as it could be around Spurs, which is a real shame. I've seen a lot of Spurs fans basically sort of not complain, but point out, ever since White Hart Lane, that final game, which was sort of staged perfectly, it feels like the atmosphere around the club has sort of gone down. I'm not sure I 100% agree with that. I think at the end of last season there was a feeling of optimism about moving into that new stadium, qualifying for the Champions League again, the consistency of that. Mauricio Pochettino signed a new contract. I was feeling very positive in the summer. Yes, it's a bit of a, not a backward step, but it's a bit of a setback almost, signing no players in the summer transfer window. What's the stat? First team to do that since 2003. I think that's right, in every Spurs fan's minds now. And of course, this new stadium news is disappointing. I think everyone was excited to get into that new stadium and sort of enjoy the atmosphere and really get going in this new season. But I don't feel like these are crippling circumstances by any means that mean it's all over for Spurs and we're in crisis and it's all over. I always like to sort of look at the long term and think, Spurs are in a great place in the bigger picture when you compare yourselves to, say, Manchester United, who have sort of aren't run particularly well in terms of their leadership and where they're going. Chelsea as well have always got those sort of short-term mindsets, which means that they can't necessarily plan for the future. I think in the big picture, Spurs are in a good place. Yes, these are setbacks, but let's not get too carried away and think it's in a massive crisis. I mean, are you less sort of philosophical in that sense?
No, I am philosophical about it. I do feel that there is a long-term goal here and that a stadium of this magnitude and a project of this magnitude is going to result in setbacks of certain kinds, and
it's inevitable.
You have to be pragmatic about it. As difficult as football fans aren't pragmatic typically. They want everything now, and the minute something goes wrong, the world's at its end. So I can understand the frustrations though, and we put out a poll on the Fighting Cock to kind of gauge this. It tries to gauge the opinion of Spurs fans, and it was quite simple, perhaps too simple. It was, are you Levy in, Levy out, or undecided?
What did you vote for?
I'm Levy in, very much so, and I think 58% of Spurs fans that answered the poll said they're Levy in, 28 said undecided. And I'm going to mess my maths up, but less.
I think it's like, I understand, as you say, the frustrations. When you look at the bigger picture, we've built an incredible new stadium. Yes, we're not in it yet, which is disappointing. Yeah. But we've built this incredible new stadium.
Does look a bit like a toilet seat, though.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about the aerial view. We don't like to talk about that. But from the inside, it looks fantastic.
Incredible.
That does secure Spurs' long-term future. So when you look at that, you're like, okay, Levy's done a fantastic job to sort of set ourselves up to move into that new stadium and to sort of have that long-term mindset. Mauricio Pochettino signed a new contract. Again, this summer we've seen so many key players sign new contracts, which is great. We haven't lost any of our key players like Harry Kane, Dele Alli, Christian Eriksen yet. So I think, in the bigger picture, it's all so positive. Yes, there are these delays with the stadium, which is a real shame, and I understand the frustrations. Yes, we haven't signed anyone, but to go all of a sudden Levy out when the club's been so well run in recent years just feels a bit reactionary.
One of the criticisms of the club, and I think this is valid and hard to argue against, is the lack of transparency. As fans, you want to know. I get we can't know everything because there's a million nuances to this stadium that we'll never be privy to, and probably shouldn't, because everyone will be losing this shit every single moment. But in terms of key massive issues that directly do affect the fan base, because yourself, you've got a season ticket. But do you think that the club should be more transparent when there's things like the fact that more games will not be played in our new stadium and moved over to Wembley. We should have known a long time ago, perhaps even before deciding to buy a season ticket.
Yes, I think, there were rumblings in the summer that it wasn't going to be ready in time for those first few home fixtures. And it is very frustrating that the first game against Fulham coming up, we're not in that new stadium. The uptake on tickets has been pretty poor. From what I can understand, every sort of club email I get, every tweet is about, can you buy a Fulham ticket? Do you want to buy a Fulham ticket? Yeah. So obviously the uptake hasn't been great there.
It's been mooted at 25,000 in the 90 seasons.
Yeah. But I understand that, yeah. But I think it is a lack of communication. It's a lack of making it clear to the fans, look, here's what's going on, here's why it's happening. They've talked, it only sort of came yesterday, it was in the newspapers over here, right? This sort of report that it was going to be delayed for more games. Spurs are applying to play Champions League games at Wembley. Spurs didn't get ahead of the news. They didn't communicate to their fans. So they were on the back foot, which is a shame. And from what I can see, I might be wrong, there hasn't been a communication yet about how the refunds are going to work. I'm not overly keen to go back to Wembley. I know last season we did fantastic there, but the atmosphere is not amazing. It's not White Hart Lane. We want to go back into to home, really. So, are we going to get refunds? How's that going to work? There is that lack of transparency communication, which is frustrating.
I think there will be refunds offered. I think the club have said that, but how that's going to happen, I'm not sure. I don't think you've received any communication to that.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things you mentioned about playing Champions League games at Wembley, the club haven't actually got permission from UEFA to do that yet, so that's another hurdle they have to overcome.
Fun.
One of the other frustrations from Spurs fans was the tone of the statement. There were several kind of acknowledgements to the NFL that Spurs have messed up, but very little to the fans who are probably most affected by it. And I get that the NFL is the business. I get that that's where a substantial amount of money is going to come in to help bankroll certain aspects of Spurs' business model. But again, the further acknowledgement or lack of acknowledgement that the fans matter from the Spurs board.
Yeah, it's difficult to excuse that. It sort of perhaps betrays where the club's loyalties lie, where football's loyalties lie in a sense, and it should be the fans, but it isn't always. But yeah, I think as we're sort of saying, the communication has been poor. These sort of issues seem like they're inevitable with a new stadium. These things happen, but I think if you can get ahead of the issue, if you can sort of communicate in the right way, then you can sort of smooth it over. But Spurs haven't really done that yet.
Do you think that there's any risk that the off-field problems are going to impact how well Pochettino can set up on the pitch?
Mauricio Pochettino isn't going to be overly delighted that Spurs haven't signed anybody, but the way he's communicated with the media and with the fans is, let's make the most of this now. We haven't let anyone go. Let's be positive. Let's go out there and fight. You saw Eric Dyer come out a couple of days ago saying, we want to prove people wrong. People are saying we haven't signed anyone. We're going to struggle. We want to show we've got the fight and we're good enough with our squad right now to compete for the title. I think that's the sort of philosophy and that's the sort of attitude Pochettino instills in his team. That's reasons to be positive, and that's a reason to sort of be optimistic about the new season.
We've got a lot going on at the moment, Tottenham, but we probably don't need Paris Saint-Germain sniffing around two of our key squad members. We'll start with Danny Rose. He was linked away from the club. Schalke was mentioned. PSG have recently come out of nowhere. Obviously, at the moment, European transfer window is still open. You can still buy clubs from British teams. Danny Rose to PSG. How does that make you feel?
I'm a big fan of Danny Rose. I think he's a fantastic player. Everyone knows, every Spurs fan knows. I think Pochettino transformed him into one of, if not the best left backs in the league. Obviously, last season he didn't play so much. There was that friction with Pochettino, but Ben Davies sort of proved himself, I think, and deserved to be the starter in that 11. But I think he's a fantastic player, a fantastic option as well to have in the squad. So I think it'd be a shame to see him go. At the same time, for him, for his own career progression, it might be right for him to leave.
And of course, Christian Eriksen, £100 million bid incoming, imminent.
Yeah, there's no way Spurs are going to go, yeah, you know what, actually, we'll go for that. We'll take 100 million and let one of our best players go.
With no option to buy until January.
Exactly, yeah. So I understand why PSG are interested in him, who wouldn't be? But I don't think there's any realistic way that Spurs are going to let him go. And I think that's the reason to be optimistic. As I said at the start, we've kept together our core group of players. I think we do have one of, if not the best starting 11s in the Premier League. And I think, despite the fact we haven't added, we do have a strong squad. I think someone like Lucas Moura, hopefully is going to prove himself to be an option this season. I think Eric Lamela was a bit part player last season. I think he's got more to do this year and will hopefully contribute. So I think, yes, there's disappointment that we didn't add. Yes, there's disappointment in the new stadium, but I think there are reasons to be optimistic. I've got no doubt we're going to finish inside the top 4, which will make it, a 4th consecutive season, which I think would be an incredible achievement when you look at the budgets and you look at the resources that other clubs around us have. And at the same time, as I mentioned, I think we've got more of a long-term plan and strategy than Chelsea, than Manchester United, maybe even Arsenal, or sort of in a period of transition. So I think there's reason to be optimistic and let's not be too down, you know.
Very true.
I tried. I tried.
If you've got to the end of the video, that means you must have got something from it. So please consider subscribing. Ball Street uploads quality content every day of the week.
Wow.
So we'll see you tomorrow.